Dear friends, welcome to my home. I know this is America's vacation time and that you may be busy, very busy, relaxing and forgetting your normal cares. But I'm compelled, nevertheless, to interrupt your carefree moments to tell you, if I may, about something that's very disturbing and important to all of us. To tell you about people for whom there will not be and cannot be any vacation this year. Very dear friends for whom there will be no escape from the heat. Neighbors of yours and mine in America who cannot play, who cannot move. They cannot move, literally. Think what that means. Not even to be able to wipe the perspiration from your own brow. The reason? Polio. It's a terrible disease that I know something about personally. This year I'm on the straw hat circuit again. That's what we in show business call the summer theaters. And I'm reminded that it's 5 years since I last played the circuit with my daughter, Mary MacArthur. It's because of what happened to our Mary that last summer, and because of what is happening to others, what will happen to others now, this summer, that I want to speak to you today. When polio strikes, it is always a fearful, terrible emergency for the individual family. But now, today, your National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis is faced with a nationwide emergency because there is not enough money to give help to the stricken. This is the stark and fearsome truth. And why isn't there enough money? Because the 1954 March of Dimes last January did not raise enough money to meet the need. And so now we cannot meet our obligation. And so an emergency March of Dimes appeal for funds is being made to you and to me. The real shock of polio's coming, of course, is in the family where it strikes. While you're enjoying yourselves with your families, I ask you to think how much that relationship means to you, how very precious it is to keep. I wish that I might have my whole family with me. But I have what I call my other family in the Mary MacArthur Memorial Unit, a special hospital for polio respirator patients. A few weeks ago, I was visiting this other family of mine and talked with a young man of whom I'm very fond. There he was in the life-giving iron lung, so he could breathe. Just breathe. Somehow he was able to ask me about other people. He asked me especially about some children that I'd seen that morning. You see, I'd seen hundreds of them lined up at their school buildings. At big city schools and at little schoolhouses in the country. Some dressed in party dresses, all wearing their name tags like medals, as if conscious of their moment in history. The polio pioneers, with their lollipops, the youngsters who were taking part in the testing of a new vaccine against polio. The testing of this vaccine is one reason why more money to fight polio is needed now. Could the National Foundation in all humanity have waited until it had enough money? No, I don't think so. For if this vaccine fulfills all the hopes we have in it, all the faith we have in it, it will mean that no one need ever die of polio again. That no one need ever again be crippled or paralyzed by this horrible disease. Never before in the history of medicine has there ever been such a mass test as this. Just imagine, 600,000 children. 600,000, even more, 650,000 brave volunteers have rolled up their sleeves. They are children in the age bracket most susceptible to polio, and they were striking back. Think how many physicians and parents, teachers and pupils, nurses and neighbors, scientists and officials volunteered their services to help your National Foundation make this test. Think how much money it cost. Don't let these shining-eyed pioneers become lost tabulations because what we have given is not enough. The scientific evaluation lies ahead. The test must be completed. We must have enough money to learn whether or not this vaccine works. Whether or not, as my friend in the iron lung asked, it is possible to save tomorrow's children from his experience. We talked a long while, he and I felt humble beside his burning concern for others. For all that the National Foundation is doing to wipe out infantile paralysis, even though the vaccine is not yet proven, we do have effective protection against paralytic polio. It is gamma globulin. The National Foundation is devoting millions of dollars to it this year to provide as much of it as possible in epidemic areas. Although GG's effect is only temporary and its supply is very limited, it does offer some of our children definite protection against this threatening disease. But in spite of all these efforts, polio is still a great menace. It's striking back at our efforts to conquer it, striking back brutally, outrageously, almost as if it had a fiendish brain of its own. As I talked with my young friend, I thought of the 67,000 polio victims of other years who are still dependent upon our National Foundation for their care and treatment. People who depend on you and me. The number of the new victims is rising daily, almost hourly in some towns. And it seems so cruel, so ironically tragic that they should be struck down when we may be on the verge of preventing polio forever. It increases our obligation, our moral responsibility to them. Look at this little boy. How does it feel to think he may never walk again? But how does it feel to think that in time it may be possible for him to walk again through your giving? Carefree as we may be this month, we must take the time to care, to do something, to give something. We are nearing the promised land. Let us cross over to victory together. When we lost our Mary, the president of the National Foundation, Basil O'Connor, said to me, "We did everything we could, but it wasn't enough." May I say to you now, give generously today to the emergency march of dimes, so that in the future we may say to every parent in the land, we did what we could, and it was enough. Bless you.